Welcome to another episode of the Well Life Podcast, where we connect with individuals across what we have determined to be the 8 dimensions of wellness.
Yeah, today we have on Cory Rodriguez, who is a health coach and pretty big social media presence today on his page, Health with Cory. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you spending some time with us.
Yeah, sure.
To kick it off, right, maybe just a little intro kind of about you and what you're currently doing right now.
Yeah. So pretty much now I try to take as many complex health topics as I can, and I try to educate the masses on social media is pretty much what I try to do. I'm trying to be like one of the go-to sources for just very like digestible, understandable health content. And that's what I've pretty much been building over the last few years. And everything I do is kind of under like the umbrella of health. And I try to be the in-between from maybe someone who's like very confused about where to start to like the expert in the field. I try to be like the in-between.
Cool.
No, that's great.
No, it's really a lot of specific, variety, right? A vast kind of really cool, vast field, but also a cool niche that you've created.
Yeah.
With your page almost being a go-to page of like, you never know what's popping up next and what cool item that you can kind of absorb, right? I almost love the mindset for myself in the training industry, the coaching industry. I used to just throw on a podcast with these certain kind of groupings of people because I never knew what I was going to pick up or what I was going to learn and how I could apply it. It ended up falling in somewhere. So it's really interesting. How did you, what stimulated your interest to just continuously put all these things out, and where did it all start for you?
Yeah, so for me, I started in fitness mainly, bodybuilding-esque, but mainly just what you'd consider to be fitness, how you look, building muscle, burning fat. That was primarily where I started. And I guess it shifted when I started to notice with other people and someone who I was dating at the time that people that looked really good on the outside were still having health issues on the inside.
Yeah, definitely.
And slowly over time, I started picking up that you could look really good, have a six-pack, have muscle, and yet there's still so many components of health that maybe you weren't doing, that your health started to still decline. And that's when I shifted from just fitness to health. And now my viewpoint's kind of like fitness is like an arm of health.
Yeah.
So it kind of sits within that overall umbrella, but you have mental health, emotional health, you have environmental health, you have sleep, you have movement beyond just building muscle, but doing cardio for actually trying to make sure that you have a good heart and good lungs and not just trying to burn fat. So I've kind of widened the thinking process of how you become the healthiest person that you can be.
Yeah, that's great. Obviously a lot of synergies there with us where A-Well is literally built within that foundation. So what was that personal journey for you, going from someone that was focused kind of even bodybuilding personally to that?
It almost was kind of like checking myself a bit. What I thought I was doing right, maybe not so much. So I used to eat Pop-Tarts after I worked out. Yeah. They had a good, carb to calorie, strawberry. And then I moved over to s'mores and the fancier flavors.
I was hoping brown sugar.
You were going no frosting.
I never liked that one
strawberry.
actually. Yeah.
The brown sugar.
Yeah.
That was a good one. But that was the second.
Yeah.
All right, well, strawberry.
But yeah, overall, they just had the right carb to calorie ratio.
Yeah.
I was like, it's fine. I would never do that now.
Yeah.
Because there's just many other choices, obviously, that are less processed, that are going to be better for your overall health. But at the time, all I cared about was the macros being set up and the calories being set up, and was my protein high enough. Now I kind of have shifted my whole way of thinking. So it's a lot of checking myself, say, okay, I'm doing this wrong, this could be better, this could be different, and then slowly evolving to, and then honestly just continuing to learn, because that was so many years ago now, probably about maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I started to shift a bit. So it took a long time to figure out where I stood on a number of different topics.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's great. It's such a funny thought there, about eating the Pop-Tarts after, because I don't know if you remember even everyone eating Rice Krispie treats before workout, right? Because the thought there is, hey, you want to get the sugars up before workout, but I love your thought process there, and that yes, you can accomplish that, but there's probably a better way to get that.
Yeah.
Sure. And it's a saying of there's macronutrients, micronutrients on a science level. Macro is how you look, right? Carbs, proteins, fats, but micro is going to be how you feel. you know, and how you're actually processing. Are you healthy? Like, what's going on behind everything? Just like you said, someone can look fantastic, but like a bodybuilder can be actually one of the most unhealthy individuals overall, let alone everything else that bodybuilding could entail. But like, what are they just doing to get calories in to a certain extent, right? You said you trained a lot in person, right? Did you see kind of, you know, on a relatable sense, did you see a carryover of like any of the knowledge you were picking up translating to like your business and your lifestyle with your clients, and then saying like, how can I, like, was that your transition of like, how can I open this up more and put this out there more? Because if one person thinks that it's useful, 100,000, a million might think that it's useful.
Yeah, it was definitely, I came to a point where I was like, obviously you can only work so much within like hour to hour, one-on-one, not even in a class perspective, but one-on-one. You can only do so much. Yeah. So I started thinking like, how could I open this up a little bit at least? And how could I create maybe even a separate thing? Like maybe online and in person were separate at the time, because it was so unknown, like who knows what was going to actually happen. So maybe the online is a separate stream than the in-person. So maybe I could work with that. And then over the course of time, they kind of like fused into one essentially.
Yeah, yeah. What was your first iteration of social media like what was your first approach? I mean, the frustrations, the, you know, the kind of image of yourself, an image of what you wanted to be with other people, because to start, like, people want the followers. Everyone wants the followers. They see the Logan Pauls of the world. They want to be the YouTuber, but they don't understand the grunt work. And they also want the followers without anything to do once they get the followers. So it's like, what are you going to do? Oh my God, $1 million overnight, but it's like, you're just you're gone. But like, you know, you have 1 million followers to post to. What the hell are you going to do, you know?
You're right. I mean, I get that question a lot. How do I get followers? And my answer usually is, well, what does that mean to you? Like for what? People knowing your name is very cool. But over time, you get kind of more used to it, and you either want to make it a business or you don't. So it's like, just because you have followers, what does that mean? And then I usually ask them, why should people follow you? Like, what are you adding to their life in any regard that they're going to want to follow you, especially now? Maybe back in the day, there was just more ability because it was so new. But now, when everyone's doing it, how are you going to stand out over someone else? Because if they're providing value to someone's life and you're not in any way possible, well, we know who's going to win that whole battle. You know?
Before,
just that thought of, how are you providing value? Right? What are you doing for people? Why do you even want these followers? Because that's, I mean, the world we live in today is such a instant gratification and how many followers you have world. But how can we differentiate that? How can you differentiate yourself online if you're actually looking to provide something?
Yeah, and I think one of the problems that it comes down to is that people love like the fame aspect of it. They want to be seen by other people. But it does come once again down to like, what are you going to provide them that's going to be long lasting enough that they're even going to want to still follow you?
Go back.
Because they can follow you now and then they can unfollow you tomorrow. Like, how are you going to keep that person engaged and entertained or in any way possible? So I think there's a lot of that like confusion over time, is like, who do you want to be online? What goes online never comes offline, so you got to be very careful.
That is the thought right there of everyone wants to go viral. Right, it's like, all right, you make something that goes viral, great. Okay, what happens next? Can you capture the attention of these people next week? Right? Can you provide? Can you do something for yourself with this viral hit that you actually had?
Sure.
Right?
And I think there's a nice like dopamine hit that comes with like something going like blasting off. But again, the next day your life is still the same. You're the same person. So like, how can you use that as a jump start to do something? Because just having that post pop off is great. But outside of that, you know, that one moment, it doesn't mean much else unless you build it into something. And I think you have to be okay with just completely failing a whole bunch of times.
So do you have any current offerings that you have for your base, or even a newsletter, a channel where you're offering some more in-depth things, or even products that you're pushing people towards?
Yeah, so I did start a newsletter called Health Bites. Probably about like 6 months ago or so, and it's really in bite-sized fashion. I'm giving you like health information. So that's a big thing that I'm pushing people to. But in about a month or so, we're coming out with a marketplace that essentially I'm trying to build into a one-stop shop for a number of different problems and solutions that you could find yourself in when dealing with health.
That's
great. Wow, that's really cool. Give us an example of 1, 2, or 3 cool, I guess, like posts that people can find on your page to give them kind of an example of they go to your page.
I love the range. The range is great.
Yeah, like I mean, like going through your page, it's like, oh, okay, there's this. Oh, then I saw a creatine one. Then I saw another random one, right? And then there's something else. It's like, what's a cool example or a couple that stand out for someone that could be like, they go to your page and they're like, these 3 random topics were just fixed with problems you solved.
Yeah. I would say the recent one is what your pee looks like. So it was like a guy bought like pee cups, and you have all different colors of pee that some people do unfortunately see when they look down. And this went crazy viral.
I think there was a red and blue in there.
Yeah, there was red and blue. Yeah. You actually, hopefully, you don't see blue, but you can see blue.
Yeah.
Red's also not good at all, so you don't want red. But it can be even like purple, it could be orange, it could be all these different colors.
Yeah.
And because everyone pees, and it's so like right there, that post did very, very well. And that obviously was a very niche thing. Then I have a lot of posts on food synergy, what to eat with certain foods that increase the availability of certain nutrients and make digestibility easier. There's fitness-like posts that if you do certain movement, it's going to open up your hips or it's going to help your elbows or your knees. So I try to those are like 3 topics that off the top of my head.
That's really cool.
Say.
Yeah.
But,
that's really cool.
What do you say from your belief, your experience, would you say are the first few or 5 lifestyle changes you'd recommend to someone if they're looking to improve their overall health and wellness?
I think firstly, when it comes to eating, and we kind of said this before, you really have to think in the way of 2 things matter a lot: how much you eat and what you fill those calories with. So again, eating that unprocessed, and everyone says this, but eating an unprocessed diet, because it should be void of at least for the most part, highly processed food, convenience-based food, because it's very hard to reach your goals, whatever they are in health, if you're eating very bad food. Number 2 would honestly just be moving as much as you possibly can in any way possible. It doesn't even matter how you're moving. It's just that you're moving. Our bodies are primed to move, and we do very little of it, unfortunately. I'd say really honing in on your routine around bedtime, because we're light junkies. We're always on our phones. We're getting exposed to stimulating things on the internet, a lot of light exposure, which we're not really used to. So finding a routine that you can stick to before bedtime is going to help you wind down better. Of course, you're going to achieve better sleep. A big one is trying to manage stress, trying to look at stress from an aspect of how can I grow from this stress? How can I manage it so it doesn't kill me? Because I think stress is one of those most misunderstood topics that we have.
I feel like it's hidden in a lot of things now in today's day too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we look at it the wrong way. All stress isn't bad. Good stress, a workout is a stressor. It's going to stress your body. But I think we look at it as all bad when that's kind of wrong. We also don't manage it. Because stress is actually, and it's a big factor in today's world. It's not like a thing, it's your reaction to a thing. So it's your perception of an event that makes it stressful or not. So looking at a stressor, changing your perception of it, how can you manage it with breathing or yoga or movement or meditation? Something like that is going to go a long way as well.
Gotcha.
Really good.
For you, in coming from the fitness industry, what are some things, couple different, kind of loaded, but brain's going everywhere. But what are some things that you've taken with you from your baseline bodybuilding fitness career, and are there still things that kind of you hold close to you and carry with you? And also on that, what have you changed, right, in how you live your life? You said the food, Pop-Tarts being one of them, right? But how has that whole scope of how you live your life changed from bodybuilding, eat this, want to look like this, to now?
Yeah, I think one of the big things would be looking at training. So I do think what I hold close to me is building muscle, still having muscle as you age especially. It's very easy for people to just not lift weights after the age of like 25, 30. And over the decades that happen, you just lose muscle mass, which leads to more falls and injuries as you get older, which is a problem. So that's a big thing. I would say beyond building muscle would be just strength training overall. I still think that if you even go see your conventional doctor, on the recommendation list is probably not going to be that you should go and lift weights, which I think is a problem.
Huge problem.
For females especially, which is usually not recommended, they should definitely be lifting anything heavy at any point during the week that they possibly can. So I think lifting heavy, within reason obviously, building muscle are like the two big things. I think where I changed is I didn't do a stretch or mobility move for like, I don't know, 7 years.
Yeah.
And my body just, like pretzeled up.
Yeah.
Now I'm all about how can I move my body in the best way possible so I feel my best. It's like, yeah, you can lift all this weight, but then you bend down and you can't even get up because you haven't done any mobility work in years.
Yeah.
So stretching, mobility work, and then doing cardio for health benefits, and actually probably like less to burn fat because we use it to burn fat. But it's not like that great at even helping us lose fat. It's really better for brain health, heart health, lung health. So I never used to focus on it outside of I'm going to do this to burn X amount of calories.
Which is such a good driver for people that use cardio as a complement, not as what's actually going to help you kind of
100%.
burn and get to the body you want. You did make a really good point of saying especially women for strength training. Love for you to kind of make another comment just about why you kind of directed that directly at women as well.
I think for some reason women are still told that they shouldn't lift weights. It's almost never a recommendation. But as women get older especially, bone density is a huge aspect. And one of the easiest ways to increase bone density is to lift weights. So, and as you get older as well, if you fall with bad bone density, the chance of you not getting up easily goes up as well. So I think overall, it's just really not talked about, like basically ever. So if you're over 50 and you're female, just look at how you can get even moderate amounts of strength training even once a week, twice a week, a full body session twice a week, upper body, lower split, whatever works for you. But you want to start somewhere, and it's never too late because you always can stop the muscle loss and the bone density going down by starting to lift weights.
Yeah, we had that directly in the studio. This one woman specifically training, I mean, she was 2 to 3 right in the beginning, not even going that heavy, learning how to lift, 15, 20 pounds, and she went from like borderline pre-osteo to osteo, like to normal range in like about 7-8 months.
That's amazing.
Which was pretty incredible.
Which directly correlates to kind of what you're saying there is, okay, so now as we age, and what people don't realize is that one of the biggest mortality factors we have is just falling when you're older. Right. So if you can decrease the amount of that and decrease the effect of that fall when it does happen when you're 80, 85, that's going to lead to you being able to be healthy for longer.
And also too, I think the confidence that you get as well.
For sure.
You feel stronger, you feel better.
Totally.
You which is never a bad thing at all.
And we feel good. We like to have a real big conversation too about just where do you want to be when you're 85? Do you want to be stuck to your couch or you can't move around? Do you want to be able to be independent at all? What's going to be that's that health span versus like kind of longevity 100%. And lifespan kind of conversation. You talked about before kind of a little bit about how you talk about kind of supplements and how you can increase bioavailability. What are kind of your top supplements that you recommend for kind of everyday consumption?
So I think there's a few that I do recommend, and then the rest fall into an as needed by scenario basis. If you're sick, if you have any issues with your blood tests, I think there's a lot that could be done depending on your situation. Vitamin D is a really important one for me, especially just for some reason I've gotten tested numerous times. If I stop taking a supplement of vitamin D, even in the summertime, my levels drop. Like well below like the threshold of an optimal amount. So for some reason, just my body just does not do well without that. Magnesium, most people don't get enough, makes a huge difference in cognition, cramping, sleep, anxiety. I would say omega-3, people, unless you're eating fish twice a week, which is generally not going to happen for most people, omega-3s are very helpful. I would do the same thing. Creatine's a big one that I think used to be in my mind as much more for building muscle, kind of changing over to possibly also being good for your brain and whatnot. So I think creatine's also a good one. From food alone, you'd have to eat a lot of red meat to achieve that amount that you get in a single scoop, so it just makes no sense. There's a lot of things like from a stress aspect that I think are good, but you can use them based on like how you're feeling and what you're going through at the time. Ashwagandha, rhodiola rosea, those work very well, but you don't always have to use them. You can use them kind of like an as-needed basis. Probiotics are also good. You can get enough from food, but are you getting enough from food? Like, are you really eating enough fermented foods to get enough probiotics that it's going to make a difference with your gut health? So a lot of it is like you, as it pertains to you. But I'd say, again, magnesium, omega-3, vitamin D, creatine, come to mind right off the bat.
Cool. What with health in mind, right? Stress in mind, supplementation, eating right, working out, have a baby as well. You mentioned earlier before we turned on the podcast. Two.
Yeah.
Oh shit. What does your day look like with, posting, content, planning, scheduling, tending to the family, tending to your own personal health? Where does everything kind of fall into place? And if you want, you can even take me through what like a day in the life looks like, right?
Yeah.
Because people don't see the reality from these big time influencers, people, no matter what stage level you're on, if you're trying to uphold some type of rapport with a clientele in person, even more on social media, you're constantly on, even when you're not. The brain's always going. So how do you manage that?
So my brain, I will say, doesn't turn off that much, even though I wish it kind of could.
Yeah.
So that definitely happens. And right now it's always different. Anyone that has kids knows like things can always shift. But usually I'm up by like 5 o'clock. My wife usually works out before I do. I'll go through some emails and I'll have some coffee. Wait for the kids to wake up. I'll grab them. Then everyone usually eats breakfast like together. Then I'll try to go to the gym afterwards, whether it be in the house or at a gym itself. Just depends on the day. Then it usually, I'll usually sit into work at that point, whether it's business stuff, videos I'm going to be making, or just overall like dissection of like what's to come with content and scripting, and that honestly takes the most time. The idea, the script, the video, the posting across all platforms, it's like that's actually like a really big thing.
Yeah.
So then after all of that, then I would usually go at that point to then it'd be like family time at that point, making dinner. I'll go back to work if I have to do anything I didn't actually get to do, and then I'd wrap up in the evening with hopefully an hour or two of like chilling out with my wife before we go to bed.
Yeah.
But a very normal day, honestly, like anyone else who has a lot of things going on. So.
And it's just you doing
right now,
front to back, or
so with the marketplace that's being built, there is a whole team, and there's 2 co-founders with me. But for content, I've had help at certain points. Right now, it's just me. It will be expanding soon, but as of right now, it's just me. I do think with certain things, a team is very helpful. Other things, it's better if you do it like yourself. Like the content, like the scripting, the ideas. I just think it's best if it comes from me. Because that's what I'm like really like sitting into.
Totally, you have to zone in and like.
And they're genuine.
Are you like? Do you have like like scribbling down, like phone notepad, anything? Is just like think, because for me, I feel like when I'm trying to think of stuff, it doesn't happen. When I'm doing the most random things or talking to someone or in training, I'm like, oh, now I got something. Is it just like you said, your brain doesn't turn off, right? It's constant. I guess it has to be. Like, what is that? What does that assault look like to get to the plan? And then what's your, for all the people that want to, grow some type of something, what's that posting schedule look like too? Is it like extremely regimented for like times a day? What does that look like?
I think you hear a lot, you have to post X amount of times per day.
Yeah.
It's the worst advice I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. Because people will actually say that the quality doesn't matter as much. It's about quantity.
Yeah.
I would extremely change that around. I don't believe that's to be the case. I believe that quality trumps quantity almost no matter what. In the beginning, it like you get better when you post more, so there is that. But when you figured it out, you can only do so much.
Yeah.
So posting 100 times a day and having the quality be kind of low, to me, isn't great.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to have some type of a schedule. I don't think you need to be so rigid. I don't actually think like posting times matter like they used to, the way that posts take off and that they trickle. I do think posting within a certain like normal day, not like 1 in the morning is probably a good idea. But I actually don't think those like metrics matter like they used to, and that's my personal opinion on the matter. But for me, I have my notes in my iPhone that I'll if an idea pops in, I'll write it down. But Notion is a big thing. Like the Notion app.
Use Notion as well.
Like,
Shout out to Notion.
It's so like there's so many folders of all different ideas. If I didn't do that, there's no way it could sit up here. There's absolutely no way. So I have the format set up with all the scripts and the ideas and the topics all baked into there. I can go back, I can check it off, I can move it from like one area to one area. So that helps an immense amount because there's just no way I can remember all of it. So, but I try my best to post every couple of days. It doesn't always happen like that. But for some people, it depends too what kind of content you're making as well. some just takes longer than like certain types of content. So it depends like how you're posting, how much editing is going into it, and like your overall process. But you shouldn't like fight the current. You know?
Yeah. I do appreciate you kind of sharing the fact that every day you sit down and strategically look through your content, like dissect, because someone that, like you said, some people can come to you and say, hey, how do I grow my followers? How to do these things? You want to be someone that has 2 million followers on Instagram, but you have to also look at this as work, right? It takes a conscious effort to kind of be out and be in front of people and develop things that are engaging or someone's going to learn from it. You have to take time to kind of build that out. So kind of with that, right, with the kids, as TJ mentioned, how do you kind of take care of yourself, right? Obviously you have a gym regimen, but do you kind of, do you put your health and wellness kind of routine baked into that? Do you try to have habits that fall in line with that?
Yeah, I think if you don't plan it out and you don't have like a game plan, it's very easy to fail.
Yeah.
Like no matter who you are. Because
like give
again,
it a time.
Yeah, because I can know everything, and anyone can know everything about like their bodies and their health, what they have to do. But like you don't get more than like a certain amount of hours in the day to like, get this done.
Yeah.
So if you don't prioritize it in a certain manner, it just won't happen. So you need to bake it in. So like beforehand, like when I meal prep food, when I make food, when I'm training, that all is super regimented because it has to fall at a certain time because it just won't otherwise.
Yeah.
It just like literally won't happen. So you can't put it to the side and hope it's going to happen because it won't happen.
I love that. I think that people like look at us and like they're like, oh, you live in a gym, you must work out every day. I'm like, most of the days I'm trying to like squeeze in my 30 to 40 minute workout because you had one-on-ones, you had to do some other work, right? We sat down to film some content, right? So just because I'm here doesn't mean it actually can get done.
And because you're always here, you might not even want to work out because you're kind of tired of being here, which is another aspect.
Nah, he wants to work out.
I need it. It's like part of it, but that's a big part of it too. Is you're trying to accomplish all these other things. Right, you got to make sure, even being a practitioner of it, that you're putting time for yourself to be able to get it done.
And I think you can always fill the day. I can fill every minute of my entire day from now until 10 years from now. So, like, where do you stop? Like, where do you stop the work? Where do you stop the workout? How do you fit it in? Like, you could just keep on filling your hours. Like, there's no stopping. When you have a normal job that only is going to pay you from 8 to 4, you go to work and you come home and you can't work more if you wanted to because you had to leave work. But if you do something for yourself or you're like your own boss, it doesn't stop. Like content does not stop. You could always do it.
Do you see it kind of gets in the way of things ever with the?
Sure. Because I could make 10 amazing videos, grow a ton in my following, and then what do I do like the next day? You know, so I spent like the last 2 weeks posting all this stuff, and then they're all posted. Well, now what? They're out there. That's great. But if I was to stop right now, I would just
it turns to nothing.
It would turn to like nothing. You know, I mean, think about like an actor or an actress. They're in 10 movies. They stop, and 5 years later, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember that person.
I haven't seen that person in forever. So you will forget. Like you have to keep on going. That's the hardest part. But it's just like health and fitness. You can be in like the best shape ever, and then if you don't do anything, then eventually you fall off the map.
Yeah. Do you ever recycle content? Do you ever take stuff from like 4 years ago, 2 years ago, and be like, okay, now put it in front of the new audience and base and see how that kind of rolls, if it's useful? Yeah,
it's more so that I took the idea because sometimes I change my format so much that it wouldn't make sense. But I do take those ideas that people either forgot about, haven't seen in forever, or who never saw, and then I post.
Cool. Yeah, it's because, and I think you might have mentioned this in our pre-conversation, that you kind of used to post in a different style, right? I know you like hold the board a lot, right? And it'd be like a list of things, and now you do like a little more of the video, so you can just disseminate that information a little differently. Yeah,
it's just different ways, and some things stop working, and you got to pivot. And I mean, honestly, social media, the better you can pivot, the better you'll be. Because it's always about pivoting to what's working, what's not letting your ego get in the way. That should have worked, but it didn't. I'm going to change. So it's a big thing.
No, that's really cool. I mean, like, that's my train of thought. I had an idea before you guys spoke.
Where do you typically suggest, from a health and wellness standpoint, that people just start? Right. We talked about like some different recommendations for lifestyle changes. We talked through it a lot, but what's day one? Where do you want people to start? Even if they're if someone's coming onto your page, what do you tell them to kind of think about first?
I would say like looking to do one thing per day or looking to learn one new thing per day that you could apply is a great place to start. because I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed because you have 100 different things that you can do, and then everyone has a different opinion on how much that thing actually matters. If it's good, it's bad. There's always different, thoughts on that. So I think finding one thing that you can learn and think, how can I apply that the next day, the next week, is actually where you'll win. And I think what I tell people, I don't want you to do everything that you see on my page. I want you to take what's tangible for your life that you feel that you could put into action and do that. Don't try to do it all. Try to find balance with what you think you can achieve within the areas that need work and with the suggestions that I'm giving you that you actually can do and get done.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing. Don't do everything. Don't try to do everything. Pick out what you actually think you can do and start there.
Yeah, that's great.
For someone that, whether it's a young kid watching, trying to become that sensation, or someone that's actually, in pursuit of real business, like kind of right in real life, trying to transition to social, what are some points of advice, and what are also some points of like reality checks that you'd give to them to be prepared for in the pursuit of trying to grow a social media page for themselves?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just knowing it's not going to be anywhere near as fast as you're hoping it will be. You may get lucky and blow up, and it may take a while. It just depends on the person. You also might not see any traction at all for a while, and one night, for no reason at all, one video pops off, and before you know it, your page is growing like crazy, and if you stopped a day before that video popped up, you would have gotten nowhere with that journey. So it's like, it's a balance of keeping yourself like in it and motivated, but also not letting the pitfalls run you off course, because it will happen. It's just a matter of how often and how fast you push it to the side and you keep on going. But the biggest thing is like, how can you be unique? How can you stand out while being true to who you are? Don't do things that aren't you, that you can't continue doing, that seem fake to you, because that always backfires all the time. But how can you be you and deliver something unique that stands out and does not sound like the person next to you?
Yeah.
No, that's great advice. It's like that, what's that image? It's like the meme of like the gold miner, right?
They're
digging the
mining.
hole through, and it's like, oh, I'm done. I'm spent.
Exactly,
But it's
yes,
like
yes.
there's like 3 more picks to go to get to that gold finally.
It's also like what we talk about in business, right? That there's a high number, 70+% of businesses, right, fail within the first year, and that's just because most people just call it in, right?
Yeah.
They pack it in because it's hard and it takes consistent effort,
Mm-hmm.
right? And before you see a return, so right, you're gonna call it a
Mm-hmm.
day before you actually saw something come out of the work you've been putting in.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think too, you get a lot of people online who make it seem easier than it is.
Definitely.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
You go on social media for long enough, TikTok, Instagram, and you see someone talking about how much money they made in like no time.
Yeah.
Like as if the average person could do it without even like thinking.
Yeah. That's what people
just
want
not
to hear
true.
too.
Yeah, everyone just wants to sell you their ebook on how they made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that if you were just making all this money, why would you be trying to sell your ebook on it? You'd probably just continue to make your money.
And people want the quick, contrary, want the quick, or want to think that they'll get there quick. They want that lifestyle idea in mind. That's why people like hearing those quick things, or buying those quick things, or signing up for that thing,
Yeah, I would much rather you feel like you can get one step closer to that by taking this action.
Yeah.
Not thinking that you're going to go, like you're going to take this one step and all of a sudden you're going to be super rich and all your problems are going to be gone.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't happen like that. Also, too, you sell an idea on what worked. How long did it take for you to figure out how to get that to work in the context of that working?
Yeah.
Yep.
And how easy can someone else apply that in their life with the context that they're going through? Is it going to be 100% crossover? Probably not.
No.
So you can't, it seems ingenuous to say that it would.
Yeah, everyone looks at the end goal and they want to be the end goal, but they're not looking at the process.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And you got to want to be a part of the process and enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you're posting genuine content every day, if you never made $1 from it, but you knew that you helped 2 million people that were following you, you'd get something out of that, right? Because you'd be okay that people became healthy or learned some things about themselves because of what you put out.
Yeah.
If you're posting shit that's that's ingenuous, right? You're getting nothing from it and no meaning and no reward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it goes one step further. If you're really posting stuff that's like not you, not even just like not helpful to other people, but you're really like playing a big part that's like way different from you, It's very tiring.
Yeah.
And
Talk about stress. Yeah.
Eventually, you won't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And you'll put yourself in a position that you basically can't get out of. And I've seen it a number of times now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the thought of someone going viral for something that wasn't them, and then you trying to play this character
100%.
kind of the entire time.
Yep.
Longevity always wins.
Yeah.
For the most part.
You're right.
So, right as we kind of wrap it up, talk to us, Ray. You're in the industry of kind of health and wellness, but what is wellness to you? What does that mean to you?
So I think wellness to me is finding balance across the main pillars of health, some of which we discussed today, but eating, moving, reducing stress, sleeping better, reducing environmental pollutants and contaminants like your drinking water and the air in your house and what you're exposed to, and then connection. Connection 30, 40, 50 years ago, very different from now. We have social media, and yet we have more loneliness than we've ever had before.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem with people today in terms of the negative issues that come with loneliness and whatnot. And it's not necessarily being alone either. It's like the feeling of loneliness no matter who's around you.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing too. So I usually like to say, I don't want you to eat perfectly or move perfectly or sleep perfectly. I want you to try to achieve balance across all those like parameters of health, because the balance of all of them, that's what makes you healthy.
Yeah.
Eating a perfect diet and being so stressed out that you can barely think, that's not great.
Yeah. No, that's
awesome.
That's perfect, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Where can people find you? And your page and Instagram, big, but anywhere else as well. So give the Instagram handle and then anywhere else they can find you.
I'd say for social media, it's Health with Cory. Same handle for all platforms. But peakhealth.com is going to be the marketplace that's coming.
Cool.
So definitely check that out. It's not out yet. You can't go there yet, but it is coming.
Cool.
And that's going to be a major place where I'm hoping that people can really get a good amount of progress with their health.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
Sure.
Health with Cory for everything. Health and wellness. Check it
Awesome.
out. We appreciate the time, man.
Thanks, yeah,
Definitely.